It would appear that Adrien Newey's future has been decided, and we have to say that if you told us what the Italian papers are telling us now back in February, we would have laughed you out the room. After the past few months, however, as well as some revealing interviews, Newey's destination has become far more understandable. But just because we get it, doesn't mean that we shouldn't take a look as to just why Adrien Newey would turn his back on one of the most historic teams in favour of one that's only started to become successful in the past half a decade. And, well, successful compared to the rest of the midfield anyway. Want to know why Adrien Newey has snubbed Ferrari? It's a bold move, but it shows all the signs of paying off. And stick around, because the team principal of his new team has laid out plenty of reasons for his choice, and despite our recent video, we have to say that we're pretty convinced. So if you cast your mind back to last year, Adrien Newey gave a quote that was very quickly picked up on after his decision to leave Red Bull, about how his biggest regrets are not being able to work alongside Ferrari, Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton, which he described as being emotional regrets. He had declined 2 approaches by the Scuderia 2 decades apart in 1993 and 2014 and had never seen an opportunity come up until now where he could work with either one of his dream drivers. It now seems, however, that Newey's impending decision as to where he will see out the rest of his career, a sad reality that we as fans will eventually have to come to terms with, will be incredibly telling of where he sees the sport going in the coming years. From the word go, the general consensus, especially when reflecting on Newey's aforementioned interview, was that Newey would kill 2 birds with 1 stone, going to Maranello and joining Lewis Hamilton at the prestigious Prancing Horse. Now though, that situation is moving further and further away from being a reality, as it has recently been revealed by Autosprint alongside other Italian publications that Newey has accepted Aston Martin's offer valued at over $100 million for the legendary car designer's services. If this turns out to be the case, this will be a massive dose of salt into an already fresh Scuderia wound by Aston, who recently acquired Ferrari aerodynamicist Enrico Cardile, who will start work as Aston Martin's chief technical officer in 2025. Not only is this painful news for Ferrari, who are already reeling from a blundered development program and a subsequently blunted 2024 campaign, with it seeming inevitable that their second place in the constructors will be usurped by both McLaren and Mercedes following their momentum in recent race weekends, but it seems that every day that passes, Lewis Hamilton is being given more and more reasons to regret his decision to ditch Mercedes for Ferrari. With Mercedes picking up in form, as well as the quality of personnel avoiding and leaving Maranello, it must give Hamilton some pause in regards to whether he has made the right decision in joining Ferrari. While yes, driving in red is something that any driver would like to do at some point in their career, it seems that Hamilton is joining a team a hell of a lot further away from the finished article than it seemed back in February. While of course Mercedes in the past couple of years have been a shadow of their former selves, they have seemingly corrected their course and are now threatening to be at the sharp end of the field. Moreover, they are looking more likely to compete for a championship next year than Ferrari. Of course, the Scuderia may turn up next year and prove to be competitive, and 2026, the year where Hamilton will truly be pinning his hopes on, will be a different kettle of fish entirely. However, for the time being, you could forgive Hamilton if he was having second thoughts about his decision to leave the Brackley team. Going back to Newey, you may be wondering, why exactly would he go for Aston Martin over Ferrari? Ferrari are above Aston Martin after all. They have all the history, and he said it himself that he regrets not working with them during his illustrious career. Well, we see the reasons as being threefold. 1. A move to Italy is a pretty big deal and it shouldn't be underestimated. It's a big enough change as it is leaving Red Bull after such a long stint with the team without moving to a new country, and if his Italian speech isn't sufficient, then a far more difficult collaborative environment. It was said in passing by Jeremy Clarkson earlier on this year that Newey was supposedly looking for a new house in Oxfordshire, which for those of you not situated in the UK, is the county over from Northamptonshire where Aston Martin are based. The next reason is the exciting and fresh prospect presented by the team. Unlike Alpine or Sauber, teams who seem beyond saving from the top down and are rotten to the core, Aston Martin are developing a team that show a lot of potential to move forward in the next half-decade. While yes, if you watched our recent video, you will know that we don't think all that highly of their approach to coming up with ideas for their cars. However, the introduction of the likes of Newey and Cardile will certainly right their design path. The infrastructure at the team, such as their upcoming state-of-the-art wind tunnel facility, something which Red Bull wasn't capable of and fumbled the opportunity to create, is an additional feather in their cap in regards to attracting aerodynamic specialists and car designers. And the final point is the backing of Lawrence Stroll. It really does seem like it's endless, with the Canadian not being dissuaded by the malperformance of the team and bolstering the finances without hesitation, being able to approach Newey with a large financial offer while being able to attract him with the upcoming potential and technical capabilities of the team is solely down to the ambition of the team owner. Hell, this is without mentioning Fernando Alonso, whose frustrations with the team may become easier to ignore if Newey was set to walk through the door, and other factors which make the Aston position appealing to the 65-year-old technical guru, such as continuing his relationship with Honda, something well known to be a relationship he has enjoyed throughout his time at Red Bull. Ambition is a word that has surrounded the Aston Martin project, and while they haven't got it right this year in the same way as last year, something we still stand by as being quite the blunder by the Silverstone team, we have to admit that their stance on aggressively acquiring personnel is pretty impressive. In an internal interview that was released on Aston Martin's website, Crack would open up on the current position of the team while discussing the direction for the team's structure moving forward. We're still in a period of growth, but I think we have to be open-minded and dynamic in terms of personnel as well as car development. This isn't a sport that rewards consolidation. Obviously, that has to be constructed around a stable core. You need to have routines and you need to have trust, and establishing that trust can take a long time, but you should never sit back and say, we are fine. There's always a need to be looking at what you can do better, what you can change. Doesn't necessarily mean you make that change, but you just have to keep asking the question. We've announced several new members of the senior management team over the last few months. The team principal has certainly seen substantial additions to the team in recent months, but he made sure to emphasize that he wouldn't see any new addition, even ones as substantial as potentially Newey and Cardile, as being the final part of the puzzle that must seem never ending. But he recognizes that in order to get closer to completing it, he may have to look outside of the current talent pool of the team. The Aston Martin team principal would go on to say this. And each time someone new arrives, I'm asked the question, is that the last piece in the puzzle? It isn't, it never is. We'll continue to look at recruitment because perhaps there's somebody else out there that's going to make us better. I say out there, it's important to never forget that we have a lot of talent within the team that we're consistently trying to develop and bring up through the organization. You look outside because the organization has to stay dynamic, has to be open to new perspectives, but we need to give the team that's already here the opportunity to mature, to express itself, to naturally migrate to areas of greater responsibility. So it would seem then that there are plenty of reasons for Newey to join up with Aston Martin, however we can't help but feel the primary reason is convenience. Starting fresh in a new country around a new team is a pretty intimidating prospect at any time, never mind halfway through your 6th decade on this planet. Being close to home and not having to unroot his entire life, while also being given a fresh challenge with a team not already fighting for wins as it stands, is certainly a good mix, and a challenge that Adrien Newey seems eager to take on. Besides, he'd also get to check off one of his 3 regrets, providing Fernando Alonso doesn't burn his bridges with Aston Martin before he arrives. Well, I guess if he does, then at least another friendly face in Yuki Tsunoda could be driving one of his cars thanks to his position as a Honda driver, seeing as he never got the opportunity to do so at Red Bull.